Hello, it's Lexi at Cozy Tea Cafe, and today we're going to be going over a summary of A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle Jensen. It is the first book in a duology. It is a Viking Norse mythology inspired book. With that being said, I am not Nordic. I listened to the audiobook for my second read of this, so I know how these names should be pronounced, but I am not promising that the pronunciation is going to be perfect or accurate. So keep that in mind before you watch this. Secondly, this is going to be full of spoilers, as usual. So if you have not read this book and you want to avoid spoilers, don't watch this video. The purpose of this video is really just to go over the entire plot of this book to get you prepared for the next book in the duology that comes out May 20th, 2025. So we'll just jump right in. First and foremost, we have Freya, our main character. She is married to Vragi, a man with a drop of the god Njord's blood, which gives him magic over the creatures of the sea. The villagers despise Vragi because he uses his magic to prevent other fishermen from catching fish, instead of using his magic to provide for their village. Vragi confronts Freya about why she isn't pregnant yet after a year of trying, and we learn through Freya's inner dialogue that she uses lemon juice before they sleep together to prevent a pregnancy with her cruel husband. As punishment for talking back to him, Vragi uses his power to make a bunch of fish jump out of the sea and onto the shore, and tells Freya to gut them all. Freya knows that all of these fish will go to waste, so she runs out and she tries to throw all these fish back into the sea, as many as she can, and she accidentally throws one of those fish and it hits a man. Freya hears the man's accent and accuses him of being a raider, but he denies this and starts flirting with her. He leaves and says that he has to go back to Jarl Snorri. Freya dreams of fighting for the Jarl to defend their lands, but her dead father forbade her before he died for fear that they would find out her secret and curse. Freya's brother, Geir, then comes to visit, and he's a warrior for Jarl Snorri, and he's in love with Freya's best friend, Ingrid. He plans to marry her once he gets enough money, and Geir warns Freya to tread lightly with Vragi because he worries that if Vragi casts her aside, he'll use his influence with the Jarl to remove Geir from the Raiders' band, and Geir won't have enough money to marry Ingrid. He also tells Freya to think about their mother, who Vragi pays to make sure she's well cared for. Vragi and Jarl Snorri show up on horseback with a party behind them, and she sees the stranger from the beach near the back of the band. Jarl Snorri says that Vragi told him that she cares more for fighting than for babies and wishes their marriage to be over and witnessed by the Jarl. So he says Freya will fight Bjorn, who is a stranger from the beach, and also Jarl Snorri's son, who is a child of the god Tyr and has a magic sword of fire. Snorri says that they will fight to the death because Vragi wants a new wife and he must appease a man of the gods. Snorri tells Bjorn that if he doesn't do it, he will exile him. Bjorn agrees, and Freya asks Snorri what will happen if she defeats Bjorn. Snorri says that if she wins, he'll give her Bjorn's armband, and she will join the raiders and receive his share of the pay, and he will also give her a divorce from Vragi. Geir tells Freya to run, but she stays and fights Bjorn. As he's about to land a killing blow, Freya tells Leen to protect her, and a shield of silver light envelops her, which reveals Freya to be the Shield Maiden. Vragi reveals that this whole charade was a trap to reveal that Freya had the magic of a god. Vragi says Freya will be Snorri's second wife and will fight in his raids. It was prophesied that Snorri would marry a shield maiden that would unite all of the people under him, but she is unfated, which means that her path is yet unclear. Snorri says that since Freya's dad is dead, it's up to Geir to approve their marriage. Geir says that he'll say no if Freya says no, and Snorri says that he demands loyalty from his warriors and threatens to remove him. Vragi then threatens to pay Ingrid's dad a visit for her hand in marriage, and Freya doesn't want both of their lives ruined, so she agrees to the marriage as long as Geir can keep his position as a warrior. Snorri agrees, but says that Geir must be punished for concealing the Shield Maiden, and he breaks Geir's leg. Vragi is petty and says that he is still going to ask Ingrid's father to marry her just to spite them. Freya grabs Bjorn's axe and throws it at Vragi's head, which kills him. The axe is made from Tyr's fire, and her hands are badly burned and blistered. Snorri orders Bjorn to take Freya to get her hand healed, and when they go to Halsar, Freya meets Snorri's wife, Ylva. Liv, who is a child of the god Eir, has healing magic and helps to heal Freya's hand. Liv uses an herbal smoke to take away some of Freya's pain, which makes her loopy, and she starts to talk about Bjorn's beauty in front of him, which makes him blush. Freya wakes up and her palm is scarred but healed because the gods favored her. Ylva enters and says that Freya and Snorri will be married today, so nobody else can claim her. Freya sees that Ylva and Snorri are truly in love, and this is hard for her. Freya heads to her wedding, and Ingrid intercepts them. Freya thinks that Ingrid is there to tell her not to do it, but Ingrid just thanks her for her sacrifice. Freya is a little disappointed that Ingrid isn't even offering to spare Freya, even though Freya would continue on her path regardless. Ingrid gives Freya her father's sword from Geir, and she's disappointed in this as well because it will be given to Snorri, and it's the last thing that she has from her father. When Ingrid leaves, Bjorn criticizes her behavior as selfish and says that she spun Freya's predicament as a gift from the gods to avoid feeling guilty. After the marriage ceremony, Ylva, who is a Vulva witch, uses runic magic to draw a blood rune on Freya's neck that marks her as a child of Lyn. After receiving a small cut on her chest, Freya's chest cracks open, starts pouring blood, and shows her beating heart. Bjorn breaks the circle and goes in to save her, but when the circle is broken, Freya collapses on her knees and she remains unscarred. The only two people who saw this happen were actually Bjorn and Freya, and Snorri says that this was a vision from the gods, which showed that Bjorn's destiny is to protect Freya and keep her safe. Bjorn is also unfated, so his future is his to determine. Along with Freya's tattoo marking her as a child of Lyn, she also has another tattoo on her palm that is indecipherable. Later, Freya meets Steinen, who is Snorri's skald and a child of Bragi, who can grant visions through her ballads. Steinen wants to hear Freya's story, so she can begin composing a ballad. Bjorn makes a toast to Freya and calls her Freya, born in fire, which becomes her new nickname. Snorri tells Freya that it's time to consummate the marriage, and they enter into a bedroom with Ylva. Snorri tells Freya to undress, and Ylva says that she can't do this again. Snorri reassures her and tells her that he has no love for Freya and only has love for her. Ylva says that they can use runic magic to create a binding oath that will allow the gods to accept the marriage without consummation. Ylva cuts both Snorri and Freya and has their blood mixed to cast a binding oath. Freya speaks an oath to protect his blood and to never tell anyone of the oath except for his blood. Snorri speaks his oath to never touch Freya and to only swear his fealty to Ylva. Snorri and Ylva sleep together so the guests outside the door can hear proof of consummation. Freya leaves through a hatch to try to find the seer who prophesied her future, but she runs into Bjorn instead. They hear Drakkar raiding ships approach, and Freya goes back to tell Snorri about the raiders. They assume the raiders are not from Nordaland because of the icy conditions, and they assume that the warriors must be of Gnarl Canute. They both tell Freya to stay behind and remain safe while their warriors fight. Freya finds an opening in the rafters of the Great Hall and climbs up to escape with a bow and arrow. She sees battle raging in the streets and sees half of Canute's men approaching the Great Hall in silence and realizes that the battle is just a distraction. All of the women and children are taking cover in the Great Hall, and she knows that she can't let the raiders breach the doors. Freya tells Ylva to alert Snorri, and she agrees to get Bjorn's attention, but he can't hear her. The warriors have reached the doors of the Great Hall, so Freya runs down the roof and jumps onto another building, but the roof collapses. Bjorn finds her and tells her to flee while she can because his father will assume she was killed if she's missing. He says that more Jarls will come for her, but Freya says she won't let innocents die. She suggests setting Canute's ships on fire, so they're forced to retreat. While Freya is burning the ships, she's attacked by a warrior and Bjorn saves her. Canute's warriors retreat, and Bjorn holds Freya while they swim back, and Freya notices an undeniable attraction between them. Snorri tells Bjorn that the last night's events proved that he must protect Freya and must remain by her side day and night. Liv tells Freya that when Nordaland found out about the prophecy, they raided Halsar and kidnapped Bjorn as a child so Snorri wouldn't move against them. Bjorn's mother was killed during the attack, and Snorri only got Bjorn back 3 years ago. Bjorn was born while Snorri was handfasted to Ylva, but still claimed Bjorn as his heir, even though he has another son with Ylva. Many people don't trust Bjorn because he was gone for so many years, and they don't want him to be the heir. While Bjorn has his first training session with Freya, she yells at him and asks why he's so angry at her. He says that he doesn't want to be her shadow and doesn't believe that their fates are intertwined. Freya yells at him again and says that she didn't ask for this and that she isn't satisfied either. She tells him to be mad at his father if he's going to be mad at anyone. Bjorn reveals that his father only rescued him from Nordaland after his powers manifested. Freya asks if they should seek out the seer to ask how Snorri will use her to unite them all, but Bjorn says that that's impossible because she's dead, and reveals that the seer was his mother named Saga. Freya meets Bjorn's half-brother and Ylva's son, Leif, and he's cold to Freya, presumably because he's unhappy with her marriage to his father, which is a snub to his mother. He seems very friendly with Bjorn despite Ylva and Bjorn's tensions. Leif and a spy named Ragnar report that they found a spy who refused to tell them anything. Ylva suggests that they put fire to her feet to get her to talk, but when her hood is removed, Bjorn immediately cuts off her head with his sword. Bjorn explains that her name is Ragnhild and she's a child of the god Hanir, which grants her magic to speak into the minds of whoever holds her token, and that person is King Harald because she is sworn to him. Bjorn killed her before she could tell Harald where Freya was. Snorri is worried about an attack, so he plans to convince the Jarls of Skaland to unite against Nordaland. Snorri says that he's taking Freya to Fjaltindr to pay homage to the gods. Fjaltindr is located on top of a mountain, and every 9 years they hold a ritual to make a sacrifice to the gods. On the way there, Freya sees a hooded figure that no one else can see, so they all assume it's a specter with a message only for her. The specter tells Freya to make a sacrifice at Fjaltindr on the first night of the full moon, or her thread will be cut short and her future will be unwoven. At camp, Steinen asks Freya again to recount her experiences so Steinen can compose her ballad on Snorri's request. Bjorn clearly doesn't like Steinen and says that Skald's powers are intrusive, and Bjorn and Ylva get in another fight, and Ylva says that Leif should be heir and accuses Bjorn of being more Nordalander than Skalander. Once they're asleep, their camp is attacked by Jarl Torrhen's warriors, who come looking for the Shield Maiden. Freya uses her shielding powers to stop them and kill some of them. Before Jarl Torrhen dies, he says that all of the other Jarls are coming after Freya. Bjorn suspects that the routes to Fjaltindr will be crawling with warriors waiting to kill Freya, and says that they have to go back. Snorri refuses to leave before Freya makes her sacrifice and tells Bjorn, Freya, and Steinen that they'll take the path to Helheim because no warriors would dare to think that they'd go that way. Bjorn refuses because he says that the path is filled with undead beings named Draug and it's too dangerous. Snorri says he'll exile him if he disobeys, so Freya agrees to go but tells Steinen to stay back and promises to tell her the story when they make it out. Bjorn tells Freya that the Draug are former warriors who entered the cave with weapons to steal a treasure and were cursed to remain undead and guard the path. They hear rumblings and are attacked by the Draug, but Freya uses her shield to prevent their attacks and they're able to get away and move forward. After they make it a little farther, Freya sees a horde of Draug heading for them and wonders why there are so many, but then remembers that those who are killed by Draug become Draug themselves. Bjorn approaches the Draug and taunts them into revealing their Jarl. Bjorn challenges the Jarl to combat and says that if he wins, the Jarl must let them pass. The Jarl accepts but says that he must use a mortal weapon, not his fire axe. Bjorn fights the Jarl and is almost killed, but Freya asks Lene to protect her as she grabs the fire axe and throws it at the Jarl, killing him. With Lene's protection, the fire axe doesn't burn Freya. The Jarl and all of his warriors burst into ashes, but there are still more Draug who weren't part of the dead Jarl's army. Freya curses them to Helheim, and suddenly roots shoot up from the floor and grab hold of the Draug and pull them down into the floor. After the Draug are vanquished, Bjorn and Freya rest as Freya grapples with her desire for Bjorn. They reach the exit of the path, and they see Jarl Sten and his warriors waiting to attack them at the gate. Freya and Bjorn steal the clothes from 2 temple guards and use their disguise to get past Jarl Sten's men. The guards escape too quickly and alert Jarl Sten's men, who then start to attack Freya and Bjorn. Bjorn pushes Freya through the gate, and he's left to fight all of the men by himself. Snorri's men arrive, but they're still outnumbered, so Freya goes back and envelops Bjorn in her shield. Freya and Bjorn then enter the temple and see King Harald of Nordaland, the man who supposedly kidnapped Bjorn and killed his mother. Snorri arrives, and there's obvious tension, but they're not allowed to fight within the temple. Freya gives a coin as an offering at the base of each god's statue. Ylva gives Freya a bird mask to get her ready for the sacrifice later, and tells Freya that the rest of the Halsar warriors will be on their way to make sure they get down from the mountain safely, leaving all of Halsar unguarded. At the ritual gardens in the forest, people are drinking mushroom tea, and Ylva insists that Freya drink the tea to see visions, even though she doesn't want to. Freya goes up for her sacrifice, and she slices the neck of a bull. Freya then sees blackbirds appear and then vanish, and she thinks that it's an omen. An attendant marks Freya's face with the bull's blood, and Freya sees hooded figures surrounding the clearing. Bjorn says that the figures are all of the gods, and they're there with a message for Freya. One of the gods says, "Freya, born in fire, child of two bloods, we see you," and then they all vanish. Snorri sees this as a confirmation that his prophecy is going to be fulfilled, and he plans to attack Nordaland right away. He takes his army to recruit the other Jarls, and Ylva ensures that her runic wards will protect Freya while they're gone. Freya is trying to sleep, but Bjorn is close to her and she can't stop thinking about him. Later, she hears both Ylva and Bjorn leave the room, and she follows after them. Freya sees King Harald speaking to someone hidden behind a statue, and she can't see who the other person is. Freya hears Snorri's name and hears Harald say, "He trusts you." Freya believes that it's Ylva that Harald is talking to and attempts to make life air. When Freya goes back, she runs into Bjorn and tells him that Ylva is working with Harald. Bjorn seems surprised and confused and asks if she saw Ylva there, and Freya says that she didn't see who it was but heard the conversation and just assumed. They heard Harald's warriors approach, so they retreat to the woods. In order to hide in plain sight, Bjorn kisses Freya, and when the guards ask to see their faces, Bjorn shows his own, and that's enough for them to leave without wanting to see Freya's face too. Freya gets wrapped up in the kiss and assumes Bjorn was just acting, so she feels foolish for thinking that there was something more between them. Freya and Bjorn rejoin Snorri and Ylva, and there is a female Jarl named Bodil who is an old friend of Ylva's, and she agrees to fight for the Shield Maiden. Bodil is the only female Jarl, and she's touched by the god Forseti and gifted with the magic of truth, so she can sense when someone is lying. Ylva says she was with Bodil, and Freya begins to question if she really saw Ylva with Harald, or if it was someone else. Bjorn says that he snuck out in search of a seer, and that seer told him that an unwatched hearth spits the hottest embers, and they all realize that Halsar is in danger. Snorri tries to convince his warriors to leave their families in Halsar behind and to attack King Harald, but Freya convinces the people to go back and protect their land. They make their way back to Halsar, and Freya recounts her story to Steinen. Freya asks Bjorn why he went to see the seer, and he says that he asked the gods if the path he walks is the best for him. When they reached Halsar, it's already destroyed and burned to the ground, and many of the people left behind were killed, including Liv the healer. They learned that the attack was from Jarl Knut, who took that advantage to destroy the village while it was unguarded. Snorri says that instead of rebuilding, they will attack Knut at Grindel. Bodil offers to train Freya because she should be trained by another woman. Freya and Bodil are drinking and dancing with the other warriors, and Steinen comes out to perform her ballad about Freya, and it's so vivid and realistic that Freya faints. Bjorn carries Freya back to her tent, and she wakes up hungover and starts training with Bodil. Bodil confronts Freya and asks why she never uses the salve on her hand, and Freya says that it's because she knows killing Vragi was wrong, but she feels no guilt or remorse, and she wants to punish herself. After training, Freya sees a specter appear and follows it to the hill, where she sees a cloaked figure carve something into a tree and then leave. Freya goes to the tree and sees an eye carved with runic magic, and when she touches it, she sees a vision of Snorri's speech about attacking Grindel, and Freya realizes that a spy must have left this rune behind to show an enemy. Bjorn arrives, and Freya tells him about what she saw and says that she suspects Ylva. Bjorn says that they'll tell Snorri what they saw, but then asks Freya why she can't look at him. Freya tells him that she feels ashamed about their kiss in the woods because it meant something to her but not to him. Bjorn then kisses Freya and tells her that it meant something to him too, and he says that he's wanted her since he first met her. Freya tells Bjorn to leave her alone because when they get caught, everyone else she loves will get hurt. Freya returns and tells Bodil and Snorri about the specter and the runic magic. Freya draws the rune she found, and there's some magic attached to it. Ylva says that it's a very common rune, and anyone could do it, including Freya, which she just demonstrated. Ylva claims the memory wasn't hers, and Bodil confirms that she's telling the truth with her magic. Snorri refuses an investigation because they don't have time. He says that Knut will soon learn about their plans, and that he needs to attack now. Snorri's warriors are headed to Grindel, and the temperatures are freezing. Freya refuses Bjorn's fire to help warm her, and she falls off the hill and into freezing water. Snorri refuses to stop, and when they finally do camp, Snorri refuses to make a fire because he doesn't want to alert Knut. During the night, Bjorn holds Freya to keep her warm and prevent frostbite, and when she wakes up, they have an intimate moment while everyone else is asleep. Bjorn says that Freya is his, even if only the two of them know it. The next morning, they head to Grindel for the battle, and even though Freya isn't completely healed, she insists on fighting. Bodil's maidens attack first as a decoy, and the rest of the forces attack while Freya uses her magic to shield them all. Freya trips and her shield momentarily falters, and during this time, a large number of their forces are hit by weapons and lightning, including Bodil, who ends up dying. Snorri orders a retreat when he says that Knut has a child of Thor who can control lightning. Freya tries to save Bodil, but Bjorn drags her away. Freya sees the child of Thor and she's struck with a sudden rage and she charges for him. When the child of Thor tries to strike with lightning, it bounces off her shield and destroys the gate, which allows Snorri's men to resume attacking. Freya charges for Knut, and with her bloodlust, she isn't aware of her surroundings, and Bjorn has to follow after her and kill warriors in her wake. Bjorn kills Knut with his fire axe, and Freya is upset that he took her kill, but Bjorn says that she was not realizing that it was a trap to catch her. Freya spends days in her bedroom after the fight because she's ashamed of the way that she acted. Steinun comes into Freya's room and asks about her perspective from the battle to add to her ballad, but Freya says that she has nothing to add. She sees that Bjorn has been camped outside her bedroom to protect her. Steinun tells Freya that her brother and his now wife, Ingrid, have come, and she says that her brother saw a healer to heal his broken leg so he can rejoin Snorri's warriors. Freya sees Geir and tells him that he's incredibly foolish and selfish to bring Ingrid here because Snorri will use him as leverage to make Freya behave. Geir insults Freya and Bjorn attacks him and starts to fight him. Ingrid begs Freya to make him stop, and Freya tells Bjorn to let him go and says that they can deal with the consequences on their own. Since the battle, 2 Jarls have sworn alliance to Snorri. Freya notices that people are looking at her with fear and she doesn't understand why. Bjorn tells her that she should listen to Steinun sing tonight so she can see what everyone else saw from their perspectives. Steinun starts her ballad and Freya sees herself fighting her way through the battle with eyes full of rage and fury. Freya is shocked and ashamed after what she saw and she runs off to get air. Freya is scared for her future and Bjorn tells her that they can run away together. Freya tells him that he'd be giving up too much if he left, and Bjorn says that he doesn't want to rule, he only wants her, and then kisses her. Freya says that they can't leave her family behind, and Bjorn says that they can't continue to do this if she chooses to stay. Freya tells Bjorn that her marriage to his father is fake and they've never slept together. Freya becomes enraged again, and Bjorn tells her that her eyes are red like they were during the battle. Freya tells him that something is happening to her and she's scared. Bjorn tells her that it's Lean making her act this way and she'll learn to control it. Freya tells Bjorn that she wants to go see her mother to get answers, but Bjorn says that his father won't let her leave because it's too dangerous. Freya asks Steinun to travel and meet with her mother to learn more about Lean for her song, but she refuses and says that her ballad is fine the way that it is. Ylva overhears and tells Freya that she does not want Snorri's people to follow him because of fear, and she tells Freya to ride in secret tonight to meet her mother while she tells Snorri that Freya needs solitude to commune with the gods. Freya and Bjorn leave together and they go to talk to her mother about her conception. Her mother tells her that it was not Lean that they invited to their bed, but another. Her mom says that Geir was a sickly baby and the healers couldn't do anything to help. Freya's mom says that she prayed to the gods to save her baby, and a woman knocked on the door and said that she would save her son if they conceived another baby with her blood. When Freya's mother woke up, Geir was gone and another woman, Lean, knocked on the door with their healthy son in a basket. Lean told Freya's mom that she was played by the previous god and says that she would give them back their healthy boy if they allowed the unborn child within her to be a vessel. Lean said that if her child was only gifted with avarice, then her words will be curses. But if she's gifted with altruism, she'll make her own fate yet unwoven. Freya's mom confronts her about Bjorn and says that she must end the relationship to protect her brother's life. Freya becomes enraged and tells her not to make demands of her and says that all she's ever done is chose her brother's life over hers. Freya calls both her and her brother selfish for making their own decisions and then blaming Freya for them, and then Freya's mom calls her a whore and tries to slap her, but Bjorn grabs her hand and they leave. Bjorn tells Freya that his mother had more than one prophecy about her and says that she foresaw that the Shield Maiden would unite Scotland but would leave tens of thousands dead and all would fear her. Snorri tells Freya that growing up he feared her, but when he met her, he didn't understand how she could be capable of causing so much harm. After the battle, he saw that his father would turn her into a weapon. He hoped that once Freya realized her family was not worth protecting, she would change her fate, but now he realizes that it didn't change anything. Freya again tells Bjorn that she can't leave them to die. She says that putting them above her own needs will prove that she has altruism instead of just avarice, like Lean's prediction. Bjorn tells Freya that he loves her, and they see a Drakkar approach, and one of Harald's warriors named Skad approaches Freya's mom and asks if Freya has been to see her. Freya's mom tells Skad everything, and as Skad leaves, she calls her a cowardly bitch for betraying her child and shoots an arrow through her heart. Skad leaves, and Freya runs to her mother. As she dies, she apologizes to Freya, and Freya lets rage consume her again and takes Bjorn's horse for vengeance, leaving him stranded. Freya arrives back in Grindel and confronts Ylva. She punches her in the face and accuses her of conspiring with Harald. Snorri shows up and takes all of them into a private room to hear Freya's accusations. Snorri says that Freya's accusations are compelling, but he won't condemn Ylva without a trial. They hear war horns blaring and realize that Nordaland's forces have arrived with dozens of ships and are demanding the Shield Maiden. Snorri says they will stay and fight, and Bjorn tells them that they cannot win this. Snorri and Bjorn start to fight, and Snorri accuses Bjorn of lusting after his wife. Freya tells him that she'll be leaving to avoid a battle. She looks to Bjorn and he nods in agreement. When Freya goes to leave, she sees Geir with a blade to his neck, and he tells her that they took Ingrid. Snorri threatens to kill them if she leaves, and Bjorn tells her to call his bluff. Freya thinks that her brother and Ingrid deserve their fate, and is about to flee when Geir tells Freya that Ingrid is pregnant. Freya agrees to stay and fight, but tells Bjorn to go. He kisses her and tells her that he'll never leave her. Harald tells Freya to come with him and avoid battle. He denies killing Saga, Bjorn's mother, and says that Snorri crafted that lie to justify attacking Nordaland. Freya asks Bjorn which of them killed his mother, and Bjorn says that neither of them did. He says his vengeance is his own, and Freya realizes that he must have accidentally killed his mom by burning down their cabin the first time he called Tyr's fire. Harald starts the battle, and Freya decides to change her fate and runs away. Bjorn follows after her, and they try to escape through a river, but they're being pursued by the Child of Thor, and the Child of Thor sends a lightning bolt at them, and they end up going over a waterfall to escape. Bjorn tells Freya that everyone saw them get struck by lightning before going over the waterfall, and everyone must assume that they are dead and they can escape in peace. Bjorn and Freya take shelter in a cave, and he tells her about the night his mother died. He says that one night a man came to their door, and she told him to hide. He heard a man fighting with her and then heard his mother scream. He called Tyr's name, but when the fire axe appeared in his hand, he got scared and dropped it, which set the cabin on fire. He was knocked out by a falling beam and then woke up in Nordaland. In the cave, they end up sleeping together, and afterwards Freya confronts Bjorn about his loyalties and asks him if he's a Skalander or a Nordalander, and says that she'll go back if he continues to keep secrets about himself. Freya leaves the cave, and she comes face to face with King Harald. Bjorn asks why he's there, and Harald says that they came in search for Freya instead of allowing Bjorn to bring her to them. Freya demands answers from Bjorn, and he confirms that he is Nordalander and refers to Harald as his father. He says that he hates Snorri and wants to protect his people. Bjorn says that he had to wait until he was certain he could trust her until he told her the full truth. He tells Freya that he did not plan to bring her to Nordaland, and says everything he told her the night before was true. Harald tells Bjorn that he is breaking his oath to him, but Bjorn says that he fulfilled his oath by breaking Snorri and taking the Shield Maiden away from him. He says that he does not need to bring Freya to Nordaland to fulfill that oath. Freya loses control and says that she curses all of them to Helheim. As she says this, the ground beneath her shakes and black roots shoot up from the ground and grab Bjorn, Harald, and all of the other warriors. Freya looks in horror as she sees all of the warriors die except for Bjorn, Harald, Skad, and Tora, those with God's blood. Harald looks at Freya and says that's why she was called of two bloods, not because she has both God and mortal blood, but because she has the blood of two gods. He says that she is a child of Hel, first of her name. Bjorn tells Harald that she won't be used like a weapon. Bjorn tells Freya to run, but when she gets to the woods, she sees Steinund, who blows smoke in her face, and she passes out. Freya wakes up on the Drakkar, headed for Nordaland, and she realizes the only other people on the boat are those with God's blood because Hel's magic won't work on the Unfated. Harald tells Freya that he wants her to fight for him, but he won't ever force her to do anything she doesn't want to do. He says that she'll be a free woman in Nordaland. Freya doesn't believe him, so she jumps off the boat and tries to swim back to shore. She's too weak from being drugged, so Bjorn jumps in to save her and tells her that it was Snorri who tried to kill his mother after Ylva convinced him to kill them both so life could inherit. He says that Harald helped him and his mother escape and reveals that his mother is still alive. He says that his mother is who he went to see in Fjelltinder because he wanted to convince her that Freya could change her fate and wanted her to relay that information to Harald. So that is where the book ends. Again, if you have any recommendations for books that I summarize in the future, leave me a comment below and I will do my best to do that. The author of this book also put together a really good pronunciation guide that takes snippets from the audiobook, and you can play them for all of the names and locations. So I'm going to link that in the bio, and you can check that out if you're interested. And once the next book comes out, I will summarize that soon after. So I hope you enjoyed this video and follow along for more summaries.